Hello everyone, I'm pleased to introduce to you an online platform for rainwatch monitoring in near real time. This online platform is open source and it was designed with you in mind as a relevant stakeholder, whether a farmer, an agric extension agent, water resource manager, those in disaster risk reduction and management, policymakers, those in the health sectors, to enable you or to help you in your climate risk management decisions. Our decisions at best should be based on evidence, scientific evidence, not based on perception. This platform was designed with this in mind and with you in mind. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to RAINWATCH and to take you through briefly the various components of RAINWATCH and how you can use it for your work. So, as I said, RAINWATCH is an open source. So to begin, I want us to log on to the online site, and then I will take you through the platform so that you can be abreast with the RAINWATCH platform and you can also use it for your work. So anytime you want to log on to RAINWATCH, you need to type in the address, and that's what I'm going to type for you. It is www.rainwatch-africa.org. www.rainwatch-africa.org. So when you type in this in your search engine, whether Mozilla, whether Chrome, it will take you to a site as long as you have internet, and then you can access information from the RAINWATCH site. So I've opened my search engine and I'm typing in the address as I showed you, www.rainwatch-africa.org. And there you go. As you can see from my screen, this is the online RAINWATCH platform that I have been talking about, that was designed with you in mind. Whether you are a researcher in a research institution at the university, whether you work with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture as extension agents, whether you are a farmer, a water resource manager, those into the energy sector, it is useful for you because your work is related to climate, and your climate risk management decisions should be evidence-based at its best. So when you come here to this platform, you would see this is the RAINWATCH logo, and then you would see something about us, the community news and events, contact us, and the login. You do not have to worry about the login. It is only for the various country coordinators. And then as I scroll down, you'll notice this on your left top corner, this plus and minus, they are meant to zoom in and to zoom out. And then you can also see on your right hand side this EN, which is English. and FR is French. So whichever language you want to explore, you can select. For this demonstration, I have selected EN as English. And then you can also see an African map. This map shows the countries, the entire African continent, with all the countries, but specifically the countries which are now on board the RAINWATCH online platform. So all the countries with their borders bolded in dark are the member countries for now, and hopefully more countries will join so that we can monitor rainfall all over the African continent. So you can see that Ghana, Nigeria, Mali, Guinea, Rwanda, Zambia are all parts. That's why their borders are in bold. And then you could also see that the African map has a color code. This color code changes from time to time. It's a rainfall accumulation product from TAMSAT. So the color may change and also gives information about rainfall for the entire African continent. If you want to interpret the color code, you come to this bar and you're able to interpret the color code in terms of rainfall received in millimeters. If you want to select any of these countries, you can click on the country here, or you come here, the select country option. You click on this arrow, the member countries will drop and you can select any of them. When you click on it, it will come here and then this will be activated, select, and then you click on it, then it will take you to that country. So for this example, I'm going to use Ghana. Therefore here, I will select Ghana. My options were to click on Ghana map here, and then come here and just click on select, or come to the drop down menu, select Ghana, and thereafter click on select. And there you go, the Ghana map appears. And the various dots, as you can see, are the various stations from Ghana. So all these stations have been provided courtesy of the Ghana Meteorological Agency to be part of the online RAINWATCH platform. And how do you know this dot represent what? There's a quick way to do that, and that is when you put the cursor on that dot or circle, then something will pop up, and you see the first thing you see on top is the station name. The second thing you see with the hashtag is the WMO ID, and the next is your latitude, in this case is 10.9, and your longitude is -1.1. So if I put the cursor on any of these stations, you have this same information coming, the name, the WMO ID, and then also the location coordinate, that's the latitude and the longitude. So this station is Wa, Bole, this is Solpon, this is Accra, and you can try for all of them. If you want to, how do you select any of these stations? You always come here, select station, click on the drop down menu, and then you can select any of the stations in Ghana of your interest. Again, let me indicate that anytime you want to go back to the main page, you click on this back to country selection, and then it will take you back, and then you can select any country of your interest and continue with the example. So for Ghana, we are going to use an example from one of the stations. For this example, I'll use a station from northern Ghana, that is Tamale. And the moment I clicked on Tamale, or I selected Tamale, another drop down menu came. And I will take a few time to go over them. RAINWATCH has three major components. That is select rain product, select temperature product, and select summary product. And under these are the three major components. And under each of these components, you have the percentile and year, which basically shows you cumulative rainfall as the season unfolds onto the end of the season. And then you can also compare that with percentiles based on the historical information, a statistical period that you select. So that way that you know that the year's rainfall, the previous rainfall was below, was less, or was more, depending on the percentile, whether it was close to the 3rd percentile or it was close to the 90th percentile. Then another section under the select rain is the box plot, which will show you the spread of rainfall for that particular area or for that particular month. And also will show you, as you may know already, the minimum. It will also show you the median. It will also show you the maximum, and this in the form of the minimum, the 1st quartile, the median, that is 3rd quartile, and the rest. And then you have the station compare, where, as the name connotes, to compare various different stations. Again, let me remind you that on RAINWATCH Platform, you can only compare stations within the same country. You can't compare stations in different countries. Under the select temperature product, it also helps you to compare temperature with the various percentiles. So we take examples also from there. And the last component, which is the select summary product, would also compare the data, but in this case at 10 days intervals. So I will take you through these major components for you to have a feel of them. I will try to explain them to you so that you understand and can use it in your decision planning and decision making process. So I'll click on the first one, the percentile and year. And immediately I selected that, you notice the 3 things I spoke about are here. This first one will show you the cumulative rainfall for a particular year, and you can compare different years. This one will also show you, but this in this case compared with the various percentiles. And the third one here, the show wet and dry, also will help you to know whether your year is dry or wet or not, or average. This is particularly good to monitor the seasonal forecast. As the season unfolds, you'll be able to compare what was forecasted and what is actually happening in near real time. Below here too, you have years, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, up to year 6. RAINWATCH allows you to compare maximum of 6 years for any example you want to undertake. So in this case, we will select the year of interest, and because we are in 2019 and the year has not ended, I'll first begin to show you an example with 2018. And therefore, you notice I've changed here to none. My interest is just taking example for a year now, so I've opted for none for year 2, and I'll change my year 1 to 2018. So I selected percentile and year. Now I want to show cumulative rainfall, so I'll choose the first one. I'll select my year. I'm not interested in the other year, so I've set them all to none. And then when I'm done, what do? I've selected my station. Remember, I said I want percentile and year. Out here, I want to see my cumulative plot. I've selected my year of interest. I want to see my graph. How do I go about that? It's very simple. Just click on load data. Again, on RAINWATCH, you can access the graphs, but the data behind you cannot access it. If you want the data behind, you have to request that with the meteorological agency in that country. In this case, if I want this particular data, I have to go to the Ghana Meteorological Agency and request for this data per their conditions. Good. So I selected 2018. My legend is here, black line 2018, and I have my plot. So this tells me when we had the very first rainfall event in 2018 and when we had the last rainfall event in 2018. Again, there are some information, useful information you can gather from this time series. Having shown you the season, again, I want to emphasize this is cumulative plot. As the first rainfall event occurred, it keeps on adding until the season eventually ends. The last event was occurred here. So if you want to see our seasonal total, we trace it to the vertical line. The horizontal line shows us the months, and our vertical is showing us the rainfall total in millimeters. And therefore, if I want to determine roughly what was the total rainfall for the year 2018 for this station, Tamale, I have to trace it to this point. And it might be somewhere here. Notice that the differences are 200. So here will be 1004. So if I'm somewhere here, then I'm close to 1350. So you can roughly say last year for Tamale we had about between 1300 and 1350 millimeters of rainfall. That's the annual total rainfall for Tamale. Again, you'll be able to also know from here when you had good rains. That was good enough to begin the season. You notice there were some events here I will explain to you, but usually you have more events towards in May and towards early June, and then the season continues till it ends usually in October, as you can see from here. This graph also has a lot of information I want to show you. You will notice that there are a lot of steps, particularly here. The steps shows the rainfall events, days of rain. So when you're having a lot of steps, that means you're having a lot of days with rain. And when you're having less steps, that means there are also gaps. Again, you notice this horizontal line. Let me start from January. You notice it was horizontal up to this point. So the first rainfall event occurred somewhere in February. The horizontal, whenever it's horizontal, it means it's a dry period. And for this station, January, February, March is usually dry. That we call it in Ghana dry season. And it normally starts from November, December, January, February, March. So late March, the rains start coming and then picks momentum, and then farming activities could begin for those who practice rain-fed agriculture in the area. But rain-fed agriculture is what is mostly practiced, so they depend on the rain for the activities. So you notice there was rainfall event here in February, but wasn't good enough to begin farming. Then there were other events also in March. But you know, for each of these events, there is a horizontal line. There's a dry period. There was a rain here, and there was a period of dryness. It did not rain from this point up until this point. Then there were rainfall events here. Again, there was a dry period. That's why it's horizontal. And then even as far as in April, there were events though, but there were also dry periods. Even from here, late April to mid-May, it's also a dry period. So there were rainfall events, but they were not good enough to begin farming activities. But the point I want to emphasize, if you see anything horizontal, it means it's a dry period. A period without rain. Some may call it drought. Okay. And when you see the vertical, is also a heavy rainfall event. So though this period late April to mid-May, there was no rainfall event, but the rainfall event that came was heavy. So you can see from this vertical. If you compare it here, you notice it was small steps, but here there was a jump. So this indicates a heavy rainfall event. So you can see another example here. There were events here, but this, from this point to this point, was another heavy rainfall event. You can see here we have small steps. They were rainfall events, but they were not as heavier as the one which occurred here. So remember the horizontal, if you see a horizontal line, it means a period of dryness, no rain. There was rain, but after that rain, there was a gap, a period without rain, until another rainfall event. And the vertical indicates heavy rainfall events. Always note that. Okay, good. So this is how, that simple way to interpret the graph, to know drought periods, periods without rain, or periods we had heavy rainfall events. Drought would have implication to the farmer. Long drought could have implication to those in the energy sector, the policymakers, those into disaster risk reduction, the farmer, and relevant stakeholders. When there are heavy events too, depending on the time and the period and the nature, could also trigger floods or could come with implications. So it is always good to be able to interpret the graph to make meaning out of it. Okay, good. So this is how, in a very simple way, to interpret your graph and get deduce some information from the graph. So anytime you want to add anything, you click on options and it will take you back. Again, let me add, to the farmer also, when you have small steps, it's good because you're having good distribution of rainfall, which is good for farming. But to the water resource manager, their interest is the total. So depending on your area, your sector, you can make meaning out of this plot to help you in your planning and decision making. So if you want to go back, you come to here, the top right corner, you click on options and then it takes you back. So you can choose to add more years. So our keen interest is, we want to know last year compared to this year, which year are we having more rain? Is last year better than 2019 or 2019 is better than 2018? I don't know. Let the data speak for itself. So I'll select for year 2, 2019. And then always remember, if you are done with your selection, you click on load data. And there we go. Always check your legend to see which color belongs to which year. And again, you notice there's now a green color added to the black one, which was 2018. Now the green is 2019. And then it's speaking for itself. This tells us that generally, from the beginning of the season till now, that is 20th August, last year 2018 has received more rain compared to this year 2019. And as you can see from the gap, the green line has always been under that of last year. Again, if you want to compare, you can compare dry periods, you can compare the rainfall distribution, you can also compare the total. You can compare the total as of 20th August 2019 at this point and trace it to the your y-axis. You can compare the same period 2018 and trace it to the y-axis, and then you'll be able to know that the total so far for last year is higher than that of this year. Again, you notice on the legend that 2019 is in red color. In addition to that, there's an asterisk. Anytime you see that, it also indicates that that year is not complete. And as you agree with me, 2019 is not complete. So it's not surprising to see it in red with the asterisk. Anytime you see red and asterisk for the year, remember that it means that year either has missing data or the year is not complete. For 2019, it is not complete. Okay, can we add more years? Is there any year you remember that was dry or that was wet that you want to compare? So based on your curiosity and your interest, you can add more years. For this particular example, I'm adding just succeeding years. So 2018, I'll add 2017, I'll add 2016, and add 2015, and then let me make use of these 5 years. I want to show you something also regarding the period we can plant and the period where the season ends. Because the historical climate information, climate data is a rich source of information. So for each year before the seasonal forecast comes, one would have to prepare for the season. And the historical information is there. So it's always good to plan your season with the historical information. Then when the forecast comes in, it only helps you to review your decisions. Because if you have planned that the season, you are going to start planting in May, the seasonal forecast comes that, yes, the onset of the season will be in May. You have no problem, you continue. But when you have planned with the historical data that I'm going to plant in May, and the seasonal forecast comes and it says, no, for this year, 2019, it was going to be in July, then you need to review your decision and wait until what? July. But when it affirms your planning, which is based on the historical data, then you are good to go. So how do I know roughly when it is good for me to plant? So I've selected about 5 years. And you always notice for this station, you always have rains coming in late February. In March, you have some rainfall events. But they are not good for plants because they come with the horizontal. And you notice the horizontals are what the dry periods. Even in April, you notice for the year 2019, there was a drought. So it's something consistent you need to notice from this data. There's always droughts in early April. You can see from this color, which is 2019. You can see same from the red color, which is 2017. Almost the same period. You can also see from 2018, which is this color, there was drought event. You can see from 2016, there is drought. Even it began in middle and also went up high as early May. So you notice there are some dry conditions. Usually, for these years that have been selected, always in early April. So it tells you that it is not a good period to plant. So one can then, based on the historical data, notice that for most of the years selected, be thinking of planting in mid-May is always a good idea. It's a period after which all the dryness or the short dry spells are more or less not common. Though there are rainfall events in March, April, they come also with some drought period. But you notice from May, mid-May going, They are short droughts, but they are not as prominent before mid-May. So it's a good idea from the historical data to know that one can start farming activities. At least the earliest should be mid-May. And then you can wait till June, but mid-May is good. Mid-May going is good for a farmer, for instance, to start with his or her farming activities. Beginning to plant, because you would have done your preparation before, and by mid-May you are good to go ahead to plant. And then you also will tend to know when does the rains end. You notice that for this year, that's 2018, it ended towards the end of October. In 2016, that's the green line, October. 2015, October. 2017, there was a drought, long drought, but there was an event also here. And the same applies 2016, there was a long drought. After the rain in October, there was a rain also somewhere in December. That was not going to be useful anyway. So the consistency is usually the rains ends in October. That's the point I want to make. And how did I know that? It is based on the historical data. So then we can say that the season usually ends in October. We know now that it can start farming activities from mid-May. And then you're also sure that usually the season ends also in October. So when you know from mid-May, and you also know up to mid-October, or at least the end of October, then you can talk about the length of the season. You have June, you have July, you have August, you have September, then you have October. So you have about 5 to 6 months to farm for this area internally. 5 to 6 months to farm. So let's take it 6 months. That's the length of the season, which is about 180 days. So based on the historical data, I've been able to determine my onset, when it is good for me to start planting, and I also know when the season ends, usually in October, mid to the end of October, and then I know my length of the season. So I can plan with this long before the season starts. And when I receive my forecast, based on the forecast information, if it is consistent with what I have planned with the historical, I keep it and go ahead. If there are changes, then I'll need to review so that my decisions will also be consistent with the seasonal forecast. And then I move on. But usually, it is good. There may be changes sometimes there may not be changes. So always plan with the historical. Wait for your seasonal forecast. Do the necessary review, and then you'll begin your farming activities for the farmer. And those into water, energy, health would also do same with their plant. Because the health people in the dry season, for instance, for this station, there will not be rains. What are the implications? The other weather parameters. The area tends to become dry. Could it trigger particular diseases? The health people will be looking at that. At the peak of the season, when we have more rains, and perhaps if there are floods, do they have implication? Anything on health? The water people will be looking at that. Those into disaster will be looking at that. And the historical information gives us an idea. It is a rich source of information for your planning and decision making as a stakeholder. If you want to go back and look at the other components, so we are done with the no normals, which basically show the cumulative rainfall, and you can compare different years. The next one I want to show you is the show percentile. And once I click on the show percentile, there's a drop down statistical period. The basis of our percentile is based on the statistical period selected, and it's recommended that you take 30 years or more if you have data. And this is going to compare the years with the percentiles, and then will help you to know whether your year is dry or wet or average, basically. So I'll select my statistical period. It's 30 years or more, so I'll take what came as default, but you can change the years of your interest. Choose your statistical period, feel free, and then the end also, you feel free to choose the end of your statistical period. And then in this case, we notice this year is receiving less rain compared to last year. So I'll keep year 1 as 2018, year 2 as 2019, and then set these places to none. For clarity, so to make our plot very clear, we can add more stations if you wish, but for this example, I'll compare these two just to let us know and see what is happening. So I've selected my show percentile, I've selected my statistical period. Remember, I'm working with Tamale, and then I'm done. So I'll click on load data. And there one more quick thing I want to show you. We used to have only this legend, but because we want to show percentile, another legend has come down here, and they are in the shades of gray. So the very thin and light one is the 10th percentile, and the thicker and more darker color is also the 90th percentile. In between this, we have the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. Basically, in a simple way to interpret it, if my year is close to the 10th percentile, the 25th, then I'm having less rain. In other words, the year is dry. When it is around the 50th, then you know it is normal, average. And when it is 75th and beyond, then you can describe that year as very wet. Earlier on, I noticed I selected 3 years. I wanted to select 2 years, so I'll go back. It is here. So I'll put this to none, so that only 2 years, 2018, 2019 shows up. Good. Okay. So you all remember in our previous example, 2019 is receiving less rainfall compared to 2018. Does the graph say that? Yes. As you can see, there is the 10th, 25th, 50th, 75th, and the 90th percentile. And notice where 2019 graph is. That's the green line. It started from the 10th percentile, moved to the 25th, came in between them, and now it is hovering along the 10th percentile. And after mid-July, it now moved to the 25th, and it's coming down again. So you notice it's generally on the 10th percentile, generally on the 10th percentile, sometimes increases to the 25th percentile. So we can describe it as what? A dry year. So 2019 rainfall for Tamale is not good. Let's see 2018, which we have described previously as good compared to 2019. It also began hovering around the 50th percentile. It came down to the 10th and then moved up again to the 50th and continued to the 75th. And there we go. Good. So our assertion has been right. You can see from the percentile example, 2018 is good, mostly between 50th and the 75th percentile. So we can describe 20 2018 as wet year, or at best we can say it was an average year because it was mostly between the 50th and the 75th as a normal year or an average year. But here the emphasis is we have confirmed that it is receiving more rain compared to 2019. And 2019 is drier compared to 2018. And 2018 received more or less an average rainfall. So always check your percentile and then relate it to your year and be able to determine whether it is 10th. When it is 10th and 25th, it means it's dry. At 50th percentile, normal. Beyond 75th, it's also very wet. Good. So let's go back and take another example. So you can use this section to really actually monitor the forecast. So assuming 2019 forecast said Tamale was going to receive more rain, it's going to be a wet year. How would you know that? Now, RAINWATCH is affording you the opportunity to monitor the season from the very first rainfall event and relate it to the forecast and see how well the forecast is performed, because you might have taken decisions based on the forecast. And when the season unfolds and it is deviating from the forecast, it means some of your decisions has to be reviewed, because you made decisions based on the forecast. If the forecast is not coming as it was forecasted, it means it's cause for a review. And RAINWATCH affords you the opportunity to know the performance of the forecast to your location of interest and make the needed review where necessary. So I'm going to show you another way, and that is the show wet and dry. It also has the same statistical period. You also have to select the year of interest. So I've selected, I want to show wet or dry. I simply want to know whether my year was wet or dry or average year. I've selected my years of interest and I click on load data. And there we go. Is it consistent with what we have been saying for these 2 years for Tamale? You notice again on the legend we are having these colors. Wet for color blue, gray is normal or average, and the yellow color means dry. So when your year falls, the times the cumulative plot falls in the blue color, then you can describe that year as wet. When it falls into the yellow color area, is described as dry year. When it is within the gray, then you can describe it as a normal or an average year. Something average is good, but when it is below average, that's when it is dry. And when it is above average, then that's also good, very good. So again, this helps you to monitor, to know how well your season is performing. It also helps you to monitor the forecast. And then it helps you with your risk management decisions as the season unfolds out. So it is always good to have this platform to monitor your season and make the necessary decisions. Those into policy may have to take certain decisions with this situation for Tamale being a dry year. Perhaps they may think of interventions. How will this affect food production. How will this affect yield? Policymakers may have to make the right decisions. Will it have disaster implication? Those into the disaster management. Will this affect our hydro dams? Those into energy will take the relevant decisions. Farmers would also take their own decisions because it's affecting their livelihoods, affecting their farming activity. So for 2019, certain kinds of decisions could be taken. The experience in 2018 would also call for certain kinds of decisions. This helps you. You don't have to wait till the year ends. As the season unfolds, you can make the right climate risk management decisions to eliminate any disaster, if possible, or at least reduce it. There isn't anywhere you can monitor the season like this except on RAINWATCH, and that's why I recommend this online platform to you. And I recommend you also recommend to your other colleagues and friends to use it for their planning and decision making. Okay, so I want to go back, click on options. So you notice that we have exhausted all the options under select. We have exhausted the options under rain percentile in year, which is under select rain products. So you have dealt with the cumulative plots, that's the no normals, the show percentile, and the dry year. So this first section has been dealt with. So I now move on to the box plot. So I click on box plot, and you notice the three options here are no more. Again, with the box plot, unlike the cumulative, we look at how the season began through to the period it ended, whether there were heavy rainfall events or whether there were drought periods without rain and then also we notice where the season starts, when you can start planting, and also when the season ends. And then once you know the starting and the ending, you know the number of months or weeks or days involved for your farming activity. You could also, with the percentiles or the wet and dry, be able to monitor the season to know whether the season is dry or it's average or it's wetter, which comes with all its own implication. The box plot helps you to also monitor what happens in the months. You know where you have more rains and less rains within the rainy season. And the box plot also, as I indicated, will help you to know the spread of your data, to know the minimum, the maximum, and the normal periods. Okay, so we are going to take an example. You would, as usual, begin with 2018. So I'll set my year 2 to none. And then again, remember, you always have to set your statistical period. Having done that, you've selected your station, you've selected, if you're interested in the box plots now, you've selected your statistical period, the year of interest or years of interest, then you click on load data. Good. So this box plot on the y-axis again is showing you rainfall amount in millimeters, and the y-axis is showing the months. And you have your legend here, you have your title or the station, and also your statistical period being shown. And this basically will tell us about the season, how it evolves to its peaks, and how it also declines, and that leads to the end of the season. So for each box plot, as you may know already, we have the minimum. These are the whiskers. This shows the streams. Here, very low, or yes, very low. Here, very high. And even sometimes we can have some point beyond, very extreme condition. And then you have this box showing the minimum here, showing the median, the maximum. Some will also term it the first quartile, the median, the third quarter. Basically, what I want to show you here is when you have rainfall below here, it can term it as minimum, or when it's here, this is an extreme condition. When it's above here, it's high, maximum, and this becomes quite an extreme, also very high. And you notice for some time in the year, or for some of the months, you have the box spreading being longer. That tells you about the spread of the data. In other words, you have a lot of rainfall, high rainfall amount within that period with more rainfall events as well. So for example, for this month in August, so no wonder the rainfall peaks in August for this station. This is the peak month, August, September. I notice you barely receive much rain in January, as you saw, and also in February. So you notice the box almost non-existent, very small one, and also in November, December. But here we have more rainfall events, and also that's why we are having a longer box, as it were. So the rains begin as we saw earlier on. We can have events in February, March. It continues, it peaks, and then it starts declining again by October. The box, the circle that you see, the color blue, also will tell you for each month whether it was normal, whether it was average, whether it was high, or in other words, whether that month was wet or dry or average or average. So you notice that for March, for this year 2018, the rainfall total received in that month, this is monthly total, was average, normal. When it comes to April, it was low, but for May, it was very high. June, it was very high. But look at July, low. August, high, very high. September, high. October, we see average, normal, and then it continues. So this, the box plot gives you a bit more information of what happens for each month. A particular year could be bad year, but particular month within that year could be very good and useful. So the box plot will help you to know. So let's add 2019. And then we load. We know generally up to 20, we have data up to August 20th, but August is not complete. So you notice you didn't find the green color which represents 2019 beyond July, because August is not complete. But you notice that rainfall has been less for all the months in 2019. And when we compare both, now we know the blue is 2018, the green is 2019. So we are not surprised in March is low compared to that of 2018. For April, same, but again they are all minimum, and we saw that in the time series plots. In April, you notice that all the plots were more or less overlying each other. In May, though 2019 has not been good, in the month of May in particular, it received more rain, as we can see from here. In June, we are not surprised, low rain compared to high rainfall for 2018. In July too, we are not surprised, low rainfall compared. In July, you notice something. 2019 July, has received more rain compared to 2018. So, as I was saying, the year has not been good generally for 2019, but rainfall in July 2019 is far more better compared to 2018. That's why the box plot is good. It gives you more information when it comes to the monthly rainfall totals. And that is what we are showing. So a year could be very good generally, but some of its months, some of the months could not be good compared when you compare to the historical data. And this could have implication for your crops or for the work you are doing. So you need to know these details. If you needed more rain for 2019 July, then perhaps you are good. But if somebody needed more rain in July, though from April, May, the year was good, but that person just needed more rain in July. And for that month, it was low. And therefore, it is good to know the monthly details as well. That will also help you in your planning and decision making. For instance, your crop was at a critical point that you needed water for this particular month, and it's having low rains, then it could have impact on your crop. Okay, so we can go back. Let's add one more year, perhaps 2017. And then we load. So now notice there are changes in the color. Now the blue color is 2017, the green is 2018, and then red 2019. So you notice that I'll be focusing more on the 2017. 2017 March was low. April perhaps is overlying it, that's why we can see. But in May it's also low. But June was very good for 2017. Besides June in 2017, the rest of the months were very, very low. The months were dry. So if your crop needed more rains in August, September, there were a critical point, you needed more rain. And there could be issues here in August, September. And therefore, it's important to know these monthly details, which could be useful depending on your work and what you are doing. Okay, so that sums it up. We can add more years for the box plot. It's just showing the seasonal cycle perhaps and month-to-month information and details to know whether your month is dry. And it is down here, or your month is wet and it's up here, and so forth. And then you know the peak months of the year, of the season, and then we know from here it peaks in August and also in September. We have more rains for these 2 months, and thereafter the season declines. So how do I go back? I go back to options, and the next option, that's the third one, the third subsection under the select rain product, is the station compare. Basically, as the name connotes, we compare stations. So again, we begin with 2018 and compare different stations. Basically, we are comparing stations. Remember, I said earlier on, you can only compare stations in the same country. We can't compare Accra or Tamale to a station in Uganda. No, you can only compare stations in the same country. And we have selected Tamale, So it would be good. Tamale is in the northern part of Ghana, so it would be good to compare it with some stations in northern Ghana. So I'll select Navrongo, which is at the north of Tamale, Y is at the west of Tamale. And then let's see what happens. So I'll load. And you notice the colors. Blue for Tamale, green for Y, and red for Navrongo. So generally we can say that Navrongo received less rain compared to Y and Tamale. But again, though generally it received less rainfall, in August it had more rain comparable to that of Tamale and that of Y. So the month of August was good for these three stations. Then you can determine the rainfall total when you trace this to the wires, and then you trace here to the wires again, and same here. So you notice in terms of total, Tamale had the highest total, followed by the green, Wa, and then Navrongo. But again, at the beginning of the season, Wa had more rains. Compared to Tamale and Navrongo. But Tamale picked up from mid-June, and then it continued to the season ended. You can also compare and notice, remember the staircase, the vertical line, drought period, notice drought period in June, similar, that's for Navrongo, similar for Tamale. And this in the same period too, there was droughts in Wa. This is consistent with all of the stations. So you can see some similarities and also some differences as well. So you can compare these stations, and depending on your interest, you can make meaning out of them and make the right decisions. So you can add as much as 6 stations and compare them. Okay, good. We are done with the first component of select rain products. The next section here is the temperature product. So I'll click on here. I've selected my location. You know the statistical period has come again. You need to select the period of your interest of your statistics. 30 years, if you have data up to 30 years and more. In the year, I selected 2016. Then we click on load. So the temperature section is quite simple. There is the maximum temperature, there is the minimum temperature, and the shade shows the extremes, the 25th to 75th, and the median, and the thick red line between is the 2016 temperature plot or line or time series. So you also notice that we try to understand the climatology of the area and what has transpired for 2016 from January up to December. Again, you notice that it was within the 25th to 75th percentile. And sometimes, 25th to 75th percentile almost throughout the year. And then you can also see that temperature peaks somewhere here in March, February, March, and gets to its low point in August. And as we saw earlier on, rainfall peaks also in August, September. So no wonder. And then after the season ends in October, the temperature starts rising again. It rises for November, December, and also peaks in February, March. Now that same thing corresponds with minimum temperature, the same extremes, 25th to 75th percentile, the median, and also the year itself. So you notice it's mostly between 25th and the 75th percentile. And then again, you notice minimum temperature is high. This time in April. That is, the night is warmer in April. Perhaps there will be more clouds and the season is beginning. So it's much warm. Night temperatures are warm in the night in April. And then it gets to the minimum August, July. August at the peak of the season again. And then the night becomes colder again. So the cold nights are mainly November, December, January, February, part of March. The nights start becoming warmer. All these also have implications for energy consumption, implication for diseases, that outbreaks that thrives on high temperature. Farmers can take advantage. Depends on what you're doing, depending on your sector, policymakers, disaster risk reduction. When temperatures are hot, if the afternoons are hotter, what are the implications? If our nights are becoming hotter, what are the implications? So, depending on what you are doing, you can also make the relevant decision. Okay, so this is basically for the temperature. More data will be added and we can explore more, and maybe more components will also be added. We come back, so we go to options, and then we go to the last section, that is select summary products. I select the decades comparison. And again, my statistical period, the data, you select 30 years or more, your year of interest. So let's take 2018 for example. What if you want to show your plot, what do? You click on load data. Yes, you click on load data. Yes. So the decade comparison, as I introduced at the beginning, helps you to know what happens for every 10 days. You know, if you look at the cumulative plots, we came down to look at the box plot, which were giving us more details at the monthly time step. Now we want to look at what happens at every 10 days, what I call decade. So when you hear me mention decade, I mean 10 days. So basically, for this section also, we have the months of the years here, January to December. Then we have the name of the station and the year. And on the vertical side here, we have rainfall amount, that's the rainfall total. So we have number of events, or the number of days it rains, number of rain events, and the rainfall intensity. We will soon add the maximum temperature and the minimum temperature as well. And for each of these three components, I'll draw much more on rainfall amount, number of rain events. Each of these has these three color codes: blue, gray, yellow. So these three bands, these yellow, grey, blue. Yellow, grey, blue is for rainfall amount, that's rainfall total. Then blue, grey, yellow for number of rain events, and then rainfall intensity also for this. And each dot here represents a decade, 10 days. And for each month, roughly we have either 30 days or 31. So each dot represents 10 days. So this dot represents 1st to 10th January. The second dot here represents 11th to 20th January. And the third dot represents 21st to 31st January. And the same first 10 days, second 10 days, last 10 days. First 10 days of March, second 10 days, and the last 10 days, that's 21st to 31st. It continues for the rest of the months. And what this has simply been done is we compare the current decade with the long-term average. That is, we took for the statistical period you selected, the statistical period you selected, we took the average of 1st to 10th January for all the years. Took the average and compared the current 1st to 10th January, that's 2018 in this case, with them to see whether the current, that's the 1st to 10th January 2018 is wet, average, or dry. So for the second decade to the same, or from 11th to 20th, for all the years, we take the average and compare with the current. So for the 3rd and 12th the year. So for example, when it comes to rainfall total for January, the rainfall total received for the first decade was average. The second decade was average. The third decade was average. It normally doesn't rain much here in January, in February, and March. So let me take examples perhaps in May. Okay. So for the first decade of May, the rainfall total received was less. So that decade was dry. If you look at the cumulative, if you look at monthly, whether the month is dry or wet or average, now we are looking at 10 days. Further details, because it affects the development of the crop, to affect what you want to do depending on your sector. For instance, I will relate more with agriculture or more to crops or farmers. This first 10 days of May is dry. The rainfall total received is described as dry. But the second decade, very wet. It was more than average, very wet. The third decade was also very wet. When we move to June, the first 10 days of the first decade was average. The second was average, but the third was very wet. When we come to July, average, dry. August, average, wet. And then September to average, wet. More rains, good. And then October, we are nearing the end of the season. Average, dry, wet. So this is how you can also take summaries for the 10 days. Some of you produce 10 days reports, and this is good for you. For agri extension agents, what has happened in the immediate past 10 days is important in offering advice to your farms. So, when you come to the number of rainy days, this will help you to know whether you had enough rainy days or not. Farmers, those into agri are more interested in rainfall distribution. So this will also help you when your rainfall is dry, the number of rain events is in the yellow, then it means you didn't have much rainy events. If it is in the gray, then it means you had average rainy events for that decade. When it is in the blue, then you had more rainy events within that 10 days. So for May, the first decade or the first 10 days, the rainy days were normal, but the second decade had less rainy days. The distribution was not good. Here it was average. So you can see distribution was good. When it comes to June, the distribution was above average. It was very good. More rain events. Good distribution. Farmer, good for the farmer. The second decade average, which is okay. The third decade was also good. More rain events. And then in July, average, more events, and then back to average. And it continues till the season ends. So, we are interested in knowing the rainfall totals, we are interested in knowing the distribution, and this provides you the information for every 10 days, and also with the intensity as well. So you notice for the third decade of February, you had more rainfall, more rainy days, good distribution in this case. The intensity was also very high. When I move to the season itself, for first decade of May, the total was small, but the distribution was good, was okay. But the intensity was also bad. Not surprising, because the total was not good. No wonder the intensity was less. But it is the only good indication here is that the distribution was okay, which could be good. And then the second decade, we had more rainfall total. In terms of the total, it was more than average, which was very good. But when it comes to the rainy days, it was very low. So it means here, heavy events, but the bad distribution. So this could come out of maybe one big rainfall event, and that is all. So the total is good, but the distribution is not good. To the water resource manager, he's fine. He's gotten the amount he wants. But to the farmer, it came perhaps maybe once or maybe twice. The distribution is not good for the farmer. What is the implication for the water resource manager? What is the implication for the farmer? Each of them will look at this differently and take different decisions that is linked directly to their sector. And then the intensity was very high. So we can look at the peak months also. You notice that the first decade for 2018 was average. Number of events, average, good distribution, good rains, good distribution, intensity too, good. The second and third were all good in terms of the total. But the second decade, the distribution is good, intensity is very high. But let's note the third decade, more rainfall, good, more than average. The number of events, it came because of a lot of rainy events as well, so it's good. So a lot of rainy events led to more rainfall total. And also the intensity was very high. So it links up well, but it's not always that this high like that. No. So we also have to look at the dynamics which would inform our strategies and risk management decisions depending on your sector. Okay, so I want to round up here. For all the graphs that I showed, you can download. It's a matter of just right-clicking, and then you can either copy the image or save the image. If I click on copy, I can take it to my graph or my Word document where I'm writing my report and paste it. My graph is here. I can use it for my reporting. Good. So for all the graphs I showed, you can save them. It is the data behind that you cannot save. But you can use the graphs for your decision making, for your reporting, for your research. And again, there is a manual will soon be uploaded to RAINWATCH so that you could also use the manual and go through these same processes that I've shown you. Again, we are happy for your feedback and also showing you an email address that you can send your feedback to. You could also find some email addresses in the manual where you can send your feedback to us. So for now, if you want to send any feedback to us, you can send it to this email address. Thank you very much for following this training. And as I showed you, you can reach us on asarefi@yahoo.com for any feedback. You could also go to the RAINWATCH platform and download the manual. New features will be added to RAINWATCH on the onset, the length of the cessation, cessation of the season, and many more. Send us your feedback so that we can also add more features to RAINWATCH that will suit your work, and then also that would help us help you better. Our objective is to help you so that we can build our adaptive capacity and be more resilient as individuals, and also to build resilient communities to bring about development. Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.